To expand on a video that I put out on Twitter, 2 minutes and 20 seconds, that's the Twitter limit for videos. Sometimes it's not long enough. And, I just got into this discussion to follow up is, my daughter, I was taking her to school today and she's telling me about a girl who's in love with an airplane. I think German girl. And it's kind of a joke, haha, she loves it. It's stark, it's strong, this airplane, and she just loves everything about it. And then the pilot made a joke about, well, she wanted to marry this airplane. It's odd. But people have married mannequins or whatever you call them now, these dolls, that look like human beings and do everything that human beings do, except complain, I guess. And that's the attraction for some of these guys. But you see that coming more and more, that's possible in this new future, this new high-tech future. And are we going to detach from humanity? Are we going to be creating babies? Are we going to choose the selection and if you have enough money, determine, blonde hair, blue-eyed babies versus, somebody wants red hair, green-eyed baby, and express those genes in that child? That's just one example. And, in marrying robots, and marrying planes, it's Mile High Club, right? But it's just it's an interesting world that we live in, and we see it portrayed in the movies, in motion pictures, like old school. But we see these future scenarios played out, and Blade Runner, I think of that. And it's, wow, are we really headed to that kind of future? And if so, what does that do to us? Are we going to lose connection with the land, with the earth, with nature? And a lot of times, when I go, that's why I go to meetups, because I do not want to lose connection to people. People on Twitter, you engage with them, but sitting down, eating dinner with them, giving them a hug, shaking their hand, looking in their eye, that makes a big difference. That's what we're here for. We're human beings, and that's why, in a trial, you are allowed to face your accuser, because there's something about showing your face and looking someone in the eye and someone accusing you directly rather than on Twitter or on social media. It's very important, because that level of humanity, that's where truth comes from. You discover the truth by looking at someone and feeling that energy, and you can pick up on that. But it's hard to do when you're sending a text message. How many times have text messages been misconstrued? You can say one thing in text and it can mean two different things, because you don't get the tone of it, you don't get the emotion. And in this new world of blockchain, I can understand why people are reticent, and have a certain level of anxiety and fear about it. Because when you talk to people, it's, I don't want to deal with that, because the initial thought is, especially around here in the Midwest, I'm in a conservative area, very conservative, very traditional area, where, you see where I, in my videos, it's crops grow out of the ground. I mean, there are seasons. I mean, there's a certain stability to all of that. And the people reflect that. There's a certain stability to people. And we tend to be more, not necessarily cautious, but more thoughtful of things. We don't rush into things. It's, it's just, it's a different process. Whereas if you live in the city, and when I travel and go to meetups, I'm not a big fan of the cities. I enjoy, all of the things that are there. I think it's wonderful and convenient. But at the end of it, I look at it as, how sustainable is it? And that worries me, that we will get to a point to where, you think Hunger Games, where you've got everybody out, in the countryside, and then you've got the cities, like the city where all of the glorious people live and all of the wealth is concentrated, and everybody out in the hinterlands are poor and essentially destitute. But the food comes from those areas, and the city is unsustainable without those products, without those resources that come outside of the city. And to be dependent like that is, it's okay as long as it's run by good people. And as long as we're not centralizing that authority again and exchanging the old system for the new system, the idea of communism making everybody, equal and it's fair for everybody and equal distribution sounds great. However, it fails every time because there's no true communism. There's never a pure form of it because it's corrupted by humanity. You've got the Politburo running things, and there's always a control mechanism in every economic system. And there's always someone who is using that system. Listen, I mean, the ambitious people get to the top because they're ambitious. And that's not necessarily a good word all the time. Good people don't want to run for office for the most part. They feel like at some point they have to because they're called to duty. But the people who are the lifetime politicians and who have been there forever are those ambitious people who want that power, who want that control. Those are the exact people you don't want running things. You want, as our country was founded, you want people that come from your communities and go to represent you for maybe one term, a couple of years, and then come back home. Because you lose your humanity. You get in that ivory tower. You get inside the beltway. And it's not reality anymore. You get inside of a city and so much of it is artificial. And that's why they have big parks, and that's, like Central Park. That's why they have these places in the city, because if you don't, people are gonna lose themselves. The first thing I see, I'm in Illinois and in Chicago. What do people do? They just make a flood they go south, for the weekend as soon as they get out of their their slavery jobs. The first thing they want to do is get out to where I live. I understand that because it's just not a healthy place. It's just my opinion. It's not a healthy place because there's so much artificiality in it. And I worry that, you see these blockchain cities. You see these cities that are being built in Nevada. You see them in Arizona. There's places where, there's big money, corporate money that's coming into these things. And, these people that aren't the greatest players in the old system are now coming into the new system, and they're building these smart cities, and everything's going to run on blockchain. Everything's going to be automated. Are we going to have a social score, Black Mirror type stuff to where, you do something wrong? And, I talked to Mitch in Vegas about this. You get into an elevator and you can only go to certain floors based on, think about this. You walk around with a social score, and there's a Black Mirror episode, watch it, to where if you don't have, let's say 5 is the top, and if you've got 3.9, you don't get to do certain things. The doors won't open for you because everything's automated. Your retina scanned or whatever it is, you're identified before you walk in. And so that elevator won't open for you, but the stair door opens for you because you're not part of the club. You're not rated high enough to take the elevator, and you're weeded out that way. Or you can't go to certain restaurants because, you're not good enough for those restaurants. Your social score is too low. I mean, those are the types of things that can happen. Well, you don't get to fly, you have to sit, in the back of the plane, or you can't take this plane. You got to wait for the next one because your social score is not high enough. That's only for these people. And those kind of things can be implemented in a controlled system, and we have to be careful of that. We have to be very cognizant of that. I mean, a lot of people live in gated communities. It's the same kind of thing. If you've got enough wealth to do that, you isolate yourself from others. There's all, the community has to look a certain way. Cars don't sit out front, and we're kind of self-policing already and segregating ourselves already, involuntarily or voluntarily, and we don't even know it sometimes. But just think about that. If you have a social score to where your car won't start if you're 2.5 on the 5 scale because you're not worthy enough to drive. It just anything. I mean, it can apply to anything once everything's automated, once everything's blockchained, so to speak, and your identity is proven everywhere you go. You will have access to certain things and be denied access to others. Is that the kind of world we want? And I get it if someone's a criminal, they've been convicted, maybe they don't get to go to certain places. These are all ethical issues of humanity that we have to work out going forward. And when I see someone who falls in love with a plane and wants to marry a plane, I think, have we given up that humanity to where we can't make those types of decisions anymore? We can't make those decisions that apply to our fellow human beings, and we can't make them accurately. We don't have the compass anymore to do that because we become directionless, we become rudderless. Is that where we're going? And it's just a thought that I had, from a simple conversation that my daughter and I had, on the way to school. So those are the kind of things that we really need to think about. We really need to understand, and really at the end of it, and I've said it many times, it comes down to we cannot sacrifice our humanity for a future of convenience. I am all about blockchain technology. I am all about the sci-fi world. But we cannot sacrifice who we are and who we've been for ages and lifetimes. We cannot sacrifice our spirits that live forever, that have been here. And I just feel like I had to say this, and I don't know why, but I wanted to get it out there. So just maintain humanity. It's so important. So important. That's the beauty in all of this. I mean, we just can't let that go. We're so creative. We do so many wonderful things, the artwork and just lifting people up, and the little things we do, how we change other people's lives. Let's not lose that. Let's not lose that ability to do that. Let's remain human. That's what makes us beautiful and eternal. So enough of that. I've gone long enough. And, I just enjoy everything around you, enjoy the people around you, enjoy nature, and just love each other the best you can. And I just hope you all have a great day. So I love you all. Love each other.